afternoon.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media. Today with us we have the presence of the Honorable Datuk Sri Hishamuddin Tun Hussein, Acting Minister of Transport, Datuk Azharuddin Abdul Rahman, Director General, Department of Civil Aviation, Ahmad Jawari Ayer, Chief Executive Officer, Malaysian Airline System, Tan Sri Khalid Abu Bakar, Inspector General of Police, Royal Malaysian Police Force. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the media. To start off the press conference this evening, I hereby call upon the Honorable Datuk Sri Hishamuddin Tun Hussein, Acting Minister of Transport, to deliver his statement. Sir, if you please do us the honor.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. As the search for MH370 continues, we remain focused on narrowing the search area. With such strong cooperation from our international partners, the challenge is no longer diplomatic. It is now primarily technical and logistical. Because the scale of the investigation is now much more complex, the release of technical and logistical information will be handled differently. As you have seen today, this means that Malaysian Airlines will take the lead in communicating with the families. As the search area has narrowed, new challenges have arisen, including managing resources in a remote search and rescue effort, and we continue to work closely with our friends and partners as we seek to marshal more specific resources in support of the operations in that area. Last night, the Prime Minister announced that according to new analysis of satellite data, Inmarsat and UK Air Accidents Investigation Branch, AIBB, have concluded that flight MH370 ended in the southern Indian Ocean. Today, I will provide further details on how the data was analyzed as provided by us by UK AIB. This information is quite technical in nature, so although I will give you as much information as I can, I will not be in a position to answer questions about the data analysis today. We will be providing this information as a press release at the end of this press conference, and this is the info provided to us by AAIB. We will accept written questions which will be answered as soon as possible. In recent days, Inmarsat developed a second innovative technique which considers the velocity of the aircraft relative to the satellite. Depending on this relative movement, the frequency received and transmitted will differ from its normal value, in much the same way that the sound of a passing car changes as it approaches the end and passes by. This is called the Doppler effect. The Inmarsat technique analyzes the difference between frequency that the ground station expects to receive and one that is actually measured. This difference is the result of the Doppler effect and is known as the burst frequency offset. The burst frequency offset changes depending on the location of the aircraft on an arc of possible positions, its direction of travel, and its speed. In order to establish confidence in its theory, Inmarsat checked its predictions using information obtained from 6 other B777 aircraft flying on the same day in various directions. There was good agreement. While on the ground at Kuala Lumpur Airport and during the early stage of the flight, MH370 transmitted several messages. At this stage, the location of the aircraft and the satellite were known, so it was possible to calculate system characteristics for the aircraft, satellite, and the ground station. During the flight, the ground station logged the transmitted and received pulse frequency at each handshake. Knowing the system characteristics and position of the satellite, it was possible, considering aircraft performance, to determine where on each arc the calculated burst frequency offset fits best. The analysis showed poor correlation with the northern corridor, but good correlation with the southern corridor. And depending on the ground speed of the aircraft, it was then possible to estimate the position at 0011 UTC, at which the last complete handshake took place. I must emphasize that this is not the final position of the aircraft. There is evidence of a partial handshake between the aircraft and the ground station at 0019 UTC. At this time, this transmission is not understood and is subject to further ongoing work. No response was received from the aircraft at 0115 UTC, when the ground earth station sent the next log-on, log-off message. This indicates that the aircraft was no longer logged on to the network. Therefore, sometime between 0011 UTC and 0115 UTC, the aircraft was no longer able to communicate with the ground station. This is consistent with the maximum endurance of the aircraft. This analysis by Inmarsat forms the basis for further study to attempt to determine the final position of the aircraft. Accordingly, the Malaysian investigation has set up an international working group comprising of agencies with expertise in satellite communication and aircraft performance to take this work forward. The new analysis I have described was convincing enough for the AAIB to brief the Prime Minister that MH370 flew along the southern corridor, and that its last position was in the middle of the Indian Ocean west of Perth. Within a few hours, the families had been informed, and the Prime Minister announced the new development to the world. As the Prime Minister stated, this type of analysis has never been done in an investigation of this sort. There remains more work to be done, and we are grateful to Inmarsat, AAIB, and the International Investigation Team who are continuing to work with the Malaysian authorities. This is a developing situation, and as soon as we know more, we will share it. Operational updates. As a result of this new data analysis, the search and rescue operation in the northern corridor has been called off. We have also stopped the search and rescue operation in the northern part of the southern corridor, close to Indonesia. All search efforts are now focused in the southern part of the southern corridor, in an area covering some 469,407 square nautical miles, and this is as against 2.24 million square nautical miles, which was announced on 18th of March. We are currently working to further narrow down the search area using the four methods I mentioned previously, which is to gather information from satellite surveillance, analysis of surveillance radar data, increasing air and surface assets, and increasing the number of technical and subject matter experts. On the assets deployed, 2 Korean aircraft left Subang Airport for Perth this morning to help the multinational search operation. No flights from Perth to the search area took place today due to bad weather. 6 Chinese ships are currently in the search area. They are expected to arrive within the vicinity of MH370, last known position, by tomorrow morning. This ship includes the icebreaker Zulong. HMAS Success is also currently in the search area. The American towed Pinger Locator, an instrument that can help find a black box, is currently en route to Perth and will arrive tomorrow. The system will be fitted into the Australian ship Ocean Shield, which is due to dock in Perth on the 28th of March. The Ocean Shield, fitted with the towed Pinger Locator, is due to arrive in the search area on the 5th of April. Ladies and gentlemen, the new analysis shared with investigation by Inmarsat and the AAIB has focused our efforts on the southern part of the southern corridor. Although yesterday's news was incredibly hard for the family members, as our Prime Minister said, it was released out of a commitment to openness and respect for the relatives, 2 principles which have guided us in our investigations. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the floor is now open for question and answer session. We will start with the local media first and then followed by the international media. Okay, I'll have it from the third row, please.
Based on the mass report...
Excuse me, your name and the
my name
establishment.
is Christine. I'm from the Star. Based on the mass PC earlier, there was reports that there were credible evidence that all lives were lost. May I know what are the credible evidences? Apart from that, is the government going to provide any monetary support to the family members of the passengers? And the last question is, how much is the flight insured for, and how will it cover this tragedy? Thank you.
First and foremost, the flight last known position, or I call it general location, is in the middle of the southern Indian Ocean. It carries very little fuel by then, and if you have to fly onwards, there's no landmass any nearby. So that I suppose we can conclude it must have been down in the water, and that area is very remote, and we're talking about 17, 18 days. Yesterday was 17th day, today is the 18th day. For anyone to survive that long, it's extremely, extremely remote. As far as the cover, yeah, we do have a general cover, and obviously this is something that we are working with the insurers right now.
Okay, next questions. Yang pakai tudung tu. Thank you. Please, could you stand up?
Tan Sri Sarah from Malaysia Gazette. Saya nak tanya on the simulator punya investigation dan 100 orang yang dipanggil untuk bantu siasatan.
So, siasatan terhadap simulator masih lagi berjalan dan kita masih lagi menunggu laporan daripada rakan-rakan kita dari luar negara.
Cepat, thank you. Yes.
Dr. Sri.
Excuse me, you're from?
I'm from Guangming Dailies. I want to ask that, Dr. Sri, which country will Malaysia will still lead the investigation team on this matter? I mean, because it's nearby Australia, right? So Malaysia will still lead this team?
We have always maintained that we are coordinating the search and rescue from the start. It involves 26 countries, it involves many vessels and aircraft. And we have been very lucky that so many countries have been forthcoming in supporting our efforts. We've also designated quadrants for countries to lead. And here and in Parliament earlier, I have stated on record our gratitude to Australia, because the satellite images, whether it is from the French, Chinese, or from the Australians, were in the quadrant in which Australia was to lead. Earlier on, Indonesia was supposed to look at the quadrant next to it, because on the southern corridor there are only 2 countries that has got a landmass there. So basically, yes, we are coordinating. Yes, we are narrowing the search. That narrowing of the search involves the southern tip of the southern corridor, and the closest country, as we have decided earlier, Australia has taken a very major part in doing that. And the last few days have indicated that they've done it seriously, and I've put it on record even to our Parliament today, the gratitude for the continuous effort that they've given to these operations.
Okay, in the middle. Second row.
Dato' Sri Sofia daripada Berita Harian. Seperti yang kita ketahui, pesawat Air France mengambil masa 2 tahun untuk dikeluarkan sepenuhnya daripada dasar lautan. Jadi sekiranya benar MH370 berada di dasar laut di kawasan yang dimaksudkan pesawat itu berakhir perjalanannya, adakah kerajaan akan tetap meneruskan misi mencari pesawat itu walaupun sekiranya negara-negara lain menarik diri?
Tetap. Dan kita akan teruskannya bersandarkan kepada kepakaran daripada pakar-pakar daripada pasukan Perancis, dan dalam hal ini saya telah pun berjumpa dengan mereka cara bagaimana dan cabaran yang mereka terpaksa lalui dalam masa 2 tahun mencari kotak hitam yang diperlukan. Maklumat itu telah pun dikongsi bersama dengan kita, dan maklumat itu juga dikongsi bersama dengan pasukan-pasukan yang telah kita agihkan tanggungjawab, sama ada ianya berkisar kepada keluarga, sama ada ianya berkisar kepada teknologi untuk mencari di lautan dalam, atau ianya merupakan kepada aset-aset yang lebih sophisticated yang digunakan untuk mencari pesawat Air France yang berkenaan.
Okay, in that corner, second row, tengah.
Assalamualaikum Datuk Seri. Saya Syimah daripada TV Al-Hijrah. Datuk Seri, berkenaan dengan sebelum ini 2-3 hari lepas ada cakap Australia mengatakan serpihan pelet kayu yang dijumpai. Adakah ia sudah dianalisa dan bagaimana dia punya keputusan? Dan satu lagi soalan saya, malam tadi Perdana Menteri umumkan ialah credible petunjuk di selatan koridor. Adakah pencarian di koridor utara akan ditamatkan? Terima kasih.
Dah jawab dari segi koridor utara tadi, dan yang berhubung kait dengan wooden pallets pun kenyataan saya semalam, kalau lihat kepada statement yang saya buat dan saya quote di sini, we can also confirm that MH370 was carrying wooden pallets. However, there is as yet no evidence that they are related to the wooden pallets reportedly sighted in the Australian search area.
Okay, third row.
Assalamualaikum Datuk Seri Gaddafi
Waalaikumsalam.
Sebelum itu saya dan juga rakan-rakan media yang membuat liputan dari hari pertama juga ingin berkongsi kesedihan, mengucapkan takziah kepada seluruh penumpang dan juga pasukan siasatan yang bekerja keras selama ini. Soalan saya, semua sedia maklum apa yang berlaku di Beijing hari ini, ketegangan keluarga yang tidak berpuas hati dan sebagainya. Jadi apakah respon daripada pasukan siasatan juga kerajaan terhadap untuk menenangkan mereka dalam situasi ini?
Seperti saya sebut tadi, struktur baru yang kita nak lakukan seperti PC yang dibuat oleh MAS tadi, hal-hal yang ada kaitan dengan keluarga akan diberi tumpuan kepada MAS. Tetapi penghargaan dan kenyataan tadi kepada pihak pasukan SAR ini, termasuk mereka yang sedang beroperasi untuk mencari dan insya-Allah menyelamat kalau sekiranya ada mereka yang boleh kita selamatkan, merupakan satu kenyataan yang amat bermakna pada kita. Kita sentiasa telus, kita sentiasa membuat verifikasi dan mengesahkan semua lead yang ada, dan kita konsisten dalam pendirian kita apa jua spekulasi di luar sana, apa jua tuduhan yang dilontarkan terhadap pasukan kita. Kita tidak berganjak kepada fokus utama kita, iaitu untuk mencari pesawat berkenaan. Dan kenyataan tadi membawa erti dan makna yang amat mendalam kepada kita, khusus yang berempat di sini dan ramai lagi di belakang kita, kerana selepas ini banyak lagi kerja yang perlu kita lakukan. Terima kasih.
Second row, second last.
Datuk Sri Akil from the NSD. Datuk Sri, earlier in Parliament today you mentioned that the government has plans to set up a Royal Commission of Inquiry into this MH370 incident. Can I know what is the time frame for this? How soon does the government plan to set this up, and how will this commission work in tandem with the experts that we already have on our side investigating this missing aircraft?
That information is not correct. There was a suggestion to have a select parliamentary committee to inquire into it, and there was another proposal to have a royal commission. I said I was not in a position to make a decision myself at that particular time, but what I did confirm is that the Royal Malaysian Air Force is conducting its own inquiries. The Ministry of Transport is now looking at members of an inquiry board that we want to set up. And there are other initiatives that looking forward where we can actually look from the experiences that we have gone through to share with all the members interested, because it is an unprecedented case here. As Malaysia moves forward in that respect. All these issues, I believe, and I've instructed my Ministry of Transport to raise in the Cabinet meeting on Friday, so we'll have a stronger indication of what we decide once the Cabinet meets in a couple of days' time.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we'll go to the international circuit itself. Please, Zaki. No, ya. Kat belakang tu. Thank you.
I'm from Norwegian Broadcasting. I wonder if you find some parts of the wreckage in the southern corridor, will they be brought to Perth, set up there, assembled and analyzed there, or will you transport them to Kuala Lumpur and investigate them here?
As I mentioned earlier, that particular quadrant, the one that's taking some leadership, is the Australian authorities. So I presume, I cannot confirm that, I presume that any debris that is discovered in those waters will be brought to Australian soil, but I need to verify that.
Will there also be investigation there?
Of course.
Zaki, ke depan ya, please. Thank you.
I'm Seth Doan with CBS News.
Hi.
These are very elaborate calculations you've gone through in some detail, but in essence you're saying to family members, please trust our math. A lot of family members do not find any closure here yet. They want to see real proof. What do you say to family members who say, we need more than calculations?
I know, and I've always been consistent in saying to the family members, my only problem is giving them answer to the question that they really want to know, which is where their loved ones and the MH370 is. And until we can find the debris, and then we can confirm that the debris is from MH370, it is very difficult for me to have a closure for the families. But what I have indicated to them yesterday, and it's been consistent with the position of the Malaysian government, is that we will do everything within our powers, and this time with 26 other nations, to reduce that search area and narrow it. And as I stated in my statement earlier, by not focusing on the southern corridor, we have in fact narrowed the area from millions of nautical miles to hundreds, though it's still a huge task. But the narrowing of it, hopefully, and I'm an optimistic person, and whenever there is hope, even if it's against hope, we will do whatever it takes. And if the weather clears, then the search will continue for the debris, and hopefully that it will link up to the MH370, and then we can start answering that one question that they really want to know.
First room. Yes, thank you.
Hi, Jigga.
Sir, could you tell us briefly the kind of investigation you're doing into this missing plane that crashed? And are we getting closer to what happened?
Well, I think investigations and discussions from experts from all over the world, we are monitoring very closely. But I've been very consistent that a lot of these questions can be answered if we find the black box. And oh, you're talking about the 4 areas that he's been looking at. Maybe you should repeat your 4 areas, don't you? Oh, I see. All right.
Well, again, the area of focus is still the 4 areas, and I'm not ready to release any findings as yet because that would jeopardize the ongoing investigations.
Okay. The one at the end there, please. Second last row. Yes. Yeah.
Hello, I'm from NetEast, Beijing, China.
Hi.
And we know now the family in Beijing Lido Hotel are very sad and very angry after they hear the yesterday's message. So what will they do and where will they go?
Before I pass that to AJ, I can just confirm that the high-level team that was in Beijing